Hi, it's been since last November when I spoke to your class, and some things have happened. Last Sunday at 5 o'clock, we were able to launch Happy Cone 2, and it seems to be doing quite well. Let's review a little bit of the information that I went over last November, and then I'll show you exactly where Happy Cone is and how it's doing. Okay, we launched the Happy Cone, and it's up in the upper atmosphere. And we want to get it up in the upper atmosphere where the jet stream is going very fast. At this location right here, it's going at about 200 miles an hour, and it goes at various speeds. So the balloon will go a certain amount in each day. So we'll hear from it in the daylight hours because there's no batteries. It only has solar power, and then it will next day we'll find it in another location, pretty far away from where it was. Occasionally, some days where there's very few ham radio operators, we may not hear from it at all for a day. And sometimes, if it's up north far enough, it'll be in solar night because this is winter time and it doesn't get bright. The sun doesn't rise very high or maybe even at all north of this area. So we'll see and we'll watch and see what happens. But currently it's operating well. We're getting good signal, and for the next few days, I'm sure we will be getting good information back. Okay, last November I showed you this slide, and what it shows is the construction of the balloon. Up at top, there's the balloon that I showed you. It's similar to this. It's a 32-inch balloon. It's not the balloon that I showed you in the classroom. It's one just like it. Dangling down from the balloon on a 17-foot wire is an instrument package, and the instrument package contains solar cells and a very tiny transmitter. This transmitter sends a signal out, which is a very special signal. It was developed by somebody that has won a Nobel Prize from Princeton, and it's able to send signals very long distances with very little power. Okay, then below the instrument package is another wire. And these two wires, the one above and below, are the antenna for the transmitter. So the transmitter sends a message out every 10 minutes. And around the world, there are ham radio operators that are listening for radio transmissions on that frequency. And when they hear one, they upload it to a central site, and then we can go and look at that site and see where exactly our balloon is. Ham radio is a hobby. It consists of people who want to use a transmitter to send radio signals. So you have to get a license, you have to take a test, and the government will give you a license along with a call sign. And the ham radio hobby does a bunch of different things besides balloons. It communicates with people all over the world. It does all kinds of things, emergency communications. It helps out with things like um, hurricanes and floods and other emergencies. It can bounce signals off the moon. And it also does some weather sky warning during stormy weather. Okay, just a little bit of review here. We're not sure the balloon will go around the world. It might go around the world many times. It might go around not once or maybe even just be up for a few days. But we'll be watching and see what happens. We might not get a signal every day, or maybe not for a week, depending on the sun angle. If it goes far north, and it could get stuck in the north for quite a while, and we won't hear from it. And also, or over Asia, there's not very many ham radio operators, so we might not hear from the balloon for a day or two. Okay, this chart shows the actual balloon that we launched. Over here on the left is the balloon, and you can see it's not very much inflated. We just have enough gas in there for it to lift the weight of the transmitter plus 7 grams, and nickel is 5 grams. So there's not a lot of extra lift, so it goes up quite slowly. And as it goes up, the pressure around it goes down, and the balloon expands. And balloon will expand until it's 32 inches in diameter, and then it won't expand anymore, and the balloon won't go up anymore after that either. In the middle, you see the actual transmitter with the antennas rolled up on little tubes on the side, and we have to unroll those and make sure everything's not tangled when we send the balloon up. and then on the right you see me pulling everything out of the back of the car. Okay, I didn't launch this balloon by myself. I had a lot of help. I belong to a balloon club, and the name of it is the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. And you might remember where that name is actually used in some cartoon show. But we have a bunch of members. The young man you see on the on the left here, and also on the right just above me, is Gordy, and he received his ham radio license when he was in fifth grade, just after his 11th birthday. He's part of our club, and he's helped launch some balloons. We're going to launch a balloon for him pretty soon. We have several other members that you see there. In the center, you see the actual launch of the balloon. You can see me with my hands in praise position as the balloon is going up. Okay, this is a view of the location of Happy Cone. Happy Cone is actually this right here, KD9ITO, and this is in the late afternoon according to the balloon. This is the sunset line, so it's just before sunset. And you can see that there's quite a few radio stations that have received the signals. There's one here in Canada, another one up here in Iceland, another one down here in the Canary Islands, many others here throughout Europe, and a lot throughout the United States as well. So we'll be seeing a little bit more about this. The balloon is actually off the coast of Halifax, Nova Scotia. So how high is the balloon? Well, the balloon is flying now at 12,000 meters, which is right about here. 12, it'll probably go up during its lifetime to maybe 13,000, maybe 13,500. And, it's kind of hard to understand how high that is. If you're flying in an airplane, commercial airplanes don't get higher than 11,000 meters. Private airplanes, ones with propellers that people can actually buy and fly on their own, don't go more above about 4,900 meters. And above this line here, you actually need oxygen to breathe. So the top of Mount Everest is 8,800 meters. So that gives you some idea of how high our balloon is actually flying. So here we have another view of the balloon, and it's a little bit different. Each one of these little flags is a transmission point where we got information from the balloon. And you can see we got quite a few transmissions from the balloon this day. And the balloon, this is the daylight line. So currently the balloon is in nighttime and we're not getting any new transmissions. So it's another way of looking at it. The balloon started out today just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is like a state in the United States. Canada has states like Nova Scotia and Quebec and Ontario. Nova Scotia is a state, and it started out right off the coast near a city called Halifax. So we're going to be going across the Atlantic now, and tomorrow we'll probably be closer to Europe. So one thing that's kind of interesting about this website is you can get a lot of different information. First of all, these are all the radio stations that received the signal during the day, and if you don't want to see those, you can hide that so you can concentrate on just the path of the balloon. The other nice thing that this can do is you can click here and you can see the winds, 12-kilometer winds, the winds at the height of the balloon. So I'm going to click on this and we're going to see the see the speed of the balloons, we have to scroll out a little bit. You can see here's the balloon right here, about 164 miles an hour. I'm going to scroll out so we get a little better context. And here's Nova Scotia right here. Oh. And the balloon is going this way. And it'll probably follow up along this way. It might go here over England, or it might go up here over Sweden. We're not sure. We'll find out tomorrow where it goes. We have a prediction that I can show you. Now, in addition to this, we can go back to the previous website and scroll down. And down below the picture, we have the height of the balloon. So we actually get two transmissions. The first transmission gives us kind of a rough information about the height of the balloon. And then we get a second transmission, I'll show you, that gives us a finer information about the balloon. So the sun angle at this transmission was 17 degrees. So we didn't hear anything from the balloon after the sun went down below 17 degrees. And you can see the sun was up at 23 degrees here, 26, 27, 29 degrees, 31, and then in the morning it was down low. So here's the other transmission. You can see here's the more accurate transmission. Here we have 12,850, so it's almost 13,000 meters high. We're talking about 7 miles high. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, this is another website that we can go to look at the position of the balloon. This is the daylight location. So according to this map, it refreshes it refreshes quite often. But this is the daylight line. So currently the balloon is in darkness. Each one of these little flags is a radio transmission. So we received quite a few transmissions from the balloon as it moved along during the day. Again, these are all the ham radio stations that received it. And this is a really interesting website because you can get a lot more information from it than other websites. If you click here, you'll be able to see the winds at that particular location. So the balloon is around in this area, so it's running at a wind at about 160 miles per hour. And we're going to scroll out a little bit and get a little bit more context where the winds are going. And we said it was off the coast of Nova Scotia, up in this area, and it's going this direction. And it might go over England, or it might go up over Sweden. So we'll be watching over the next few days, or the next day and a half, where it's actually going to go. And in another slide, we're going to actually see a prediction of where it's going to go. So let's go back to the previous website. And if you want to concentrate on the actual path of the balloon, you can hide all the spots and you can get a little bit better view of the actual balloon. Now below this picture is the details of each transmission. And in this column you get the height of the balloon, and in this column you get the angle of the balloon, and you can see that we didn't receive any transmissions below 17 degrees, and the approximate height according to this transmission was 12,000 meters. Okay, this is the approximate height. We actually get two transmissions from the balloon, and the second transmission is further down the list here, and you can see the solar angle increases to 30 degrees, and then it comes back down to the sunrise, 8 degrees, and then below that I missed something. Okay, so this is another way of looking at where the balloon is. This is another website, and you can see this is daytime over here, the daylight nighttime line. They call this the gray line, and you can see that the balloon currently at this time is in the nighttime, and we're not receiving any new transmissions. So we can scroll in on this. Okay, scroll in a little bit and see exactly what's going on here. And each one of these little flags is a transmission. Uh, the balloon transmits every 10 minutes, so we got quite a few transmissions. We don't get every transmission, but we get quite a few. And you can see all of the ham radio stations that received the signal. There's one here, again, the one up in Iceland, and a lot of them in Europe, all over the United States, also up into Canada. Again, it took off the day just off the coast of Nova Scotia. If we want to see the path in a little more detail, we can get rid of these uh, spots. So we're going to hide the spots and concentrate on just the path. Okay, so you see the path here. And again, this is about several hours after daylight has passed, so the balloon might be up here someplace. One thing nice about this website is you can click here on 12-meter winds, and you can go to the website at the location of the balloon and actually see the wind pattern. So we see it's going quite fast, 170 miles an hour almost, and we can scroll out to get a little bit better context. Scrolling out a little bit. So the balloon was going up from Nova Scotia up this direction, and it's caught in this jet stream, and it might go up here over Sweden, or it might go up over here over England. Tomorrow we'll find out exactly where it's gone. And there's ways to predict where it's going to go to, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. So if we go back to the website and we scroll down below the picture, we have here the height, the height that the balloon has reported. This is the approximate height, and this is the sun angle. And you can see as the sun is going down, we don't get any more transmissions. When the sun is at a very low angle to the solar panels, we just don't get any transmission. So you can see that 17 degrees was the lowest. So we might go into an area where we won't be able to see many transmissions tomorrow because it's going in a northerly direction. But we will see. Okay. All right, so this is another view of the balloon on a different website, and this is a little bit different view, which is kind of interesting. You get more information on this view, and you can see the actual path. This is the daylight line, so at this current time the balloon is in darkness, but you can see the path in more detail. Each of these flags represents the location of the balloon during a transmission. We get a transmission. The balloon tries to transmit every 10 minutes. We do not receive every transmission. And again, you can see the different ham radio stations that received it. The one up in Nova Scotia, the one up in Iceland, and the others, excuse me. We can zoom out and get a little bit better perspective on what's going on here. If you click here, you can hide the spots and concentrate on just the path of the balloon. And you can see that in the morning we were just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a state in Canada, just like we have states in the United States. Nova Scotia is a state, Quebec is a state, Ontario is a state. It starts off the coast of Nova Scotia, goes off the coast of Newfoundland, which is another state, and then comes out here into the Atlantic. And this is actually several hours past sunset, so we could expect the balloon to be further along. Another thing that this website does is it integrates with the wind speed. So if you click here on 12-kilometer winds, it'll go to a website with the wind speed of the actual location of the balloon. I'm going to scroll out and so we can get a little bit more perspective. Okay, here's Newfoundland, here's Nova Scotia, so we're up around here, and the wind is taking us this direction. And you can see that if it'll either take us up here over Sweden, and or we might be going over England. We'll find out tomorrow exactly where we're going, and there's ways to predict where we're going as well. So if we scroll out even more, we can see the entire pattern, and we might be going here this way and get into this high-speed jet stream. We'll be seeing exactly where we go in the next few days. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a slightly different view of the location of the balloon. This is the daylight hour at this current time. So at this current time, the balloon is in deep darkness, and it's actually several hours after sunset, so the balloon is actually probably out in this direction. And we can take a closer look at the actual path of the balloon using this website. Okay, if we hide the spots, the radio reception sites, we can take a closer look at the path of the balloon. And you can see it started out off the coast of Nova Scotia. And Nova Scotia is a state in Canada, just like we have states. Canada has states. Quebec, Ontario, those are other states. It started off the day off of the coast of Nova Scotia. It was actually launched the previous night at 5 o'clock, just before sunset, from a place near Chicago, Illinois, and flew this distance overnight. It flew this distance during the daytime, so you can get an idea how far it goes in a particular day. It's in very strong winds right now, so we can see it's going to be going very fast. Another thing this website gives us, it's kind of interesting. If you click here on the 12-kilometer winds, you can see the actual wind speed at the location and the direction of the jet stream at this particular time. So I'm going to scroll out and get a little bit better perspective of what we're looking at. So we're out here off the coast of Newfoundland, and the jet stream is going to take us up this way, and as it goes up this way, we might lose communications with it. It might go into the nighttime. But then it looks like it's going to come down either over Sweden or over England and go across several other countries. So we can use this to help us try and predict where the balloon is going to go. There's another way of finding out or predicting where the balloon is going to go, and I'll be showing that in the next slide. Let's go back to the previous slide, previous website. And the other thing you can do with this is if you scroll down below the picture, we have information from the individual transmissions. So this transmission, the height reported, the approximate height reported was 12,000 meters, and the sun angle was 17 degrees. So we didn't receive any signals when the sun angle was below 17 degrees. Okay, if you go down, you can see the sun angle was much higher. If you scroll down all the way, you can see the sun rise all the way down here. And we actually got transmissions very early in the morning when it was at 8 degrees. All right, so let's go back and look at the next slide. All right, this is another way of looking at the location of the balloon. It's another website that provides that information. This is the daylight line. You can see this is nighttime over here, and this is daytime over here. So you can see at the time of looking at this website, the balloon has been in darkness for quite a while, and its actual location is probably closer to up here somewhere. Okay, you can find out a lot of information about this. This is the path of the balloon. Each of these little flags is a transmission. Now, before we go into detail there, I'm going to turn off all these spots so we can concentrate on the path of the balloon. So I'm going to go up here and say hide spots. Okay, so there's the path of the balloon. It started off the coast in the morning, off the coast of Nova Scotia. The previous night at 5 o'clock, it was launched just before sunset from Chicago, Illinois. So it went this distance overnight. And it was just off the coast of a city called Halifax, which is uh, the capital of Nova Scotia. So Canada has states just like the United States. Nova Scotia is one. Quebec, Ontario are some of the states. And you can see that we've had quite a bit of movement during the day. So one thing that's interesting about this is that we can go up here and see the actual winds that are at the altitude of the balloon. And I'm going to scroll out a little bit. Scroll out a little bit more so we get some context. Okay, so you can see here's Maine in the United States. Over here is England, Spain, Africa. So we're right around here someplace, and the winds are going to take us north. And as we go north, we might lose communication because we might go into the winter night of the northern part of the globe. But then we'll come back down and we'll be able to hear the transmissions again sometime tomorrow, maybe the next day. So it's going to come down either over England or over Sweden and go across some other countries. We will see where it goes. There's a way to predict that, and I'll be showing that in another slide. Let's go back to where we were here, and you can do other things with this website. If you're over land, you can use this. You could drag the pointer over, and if there's something you can see, it'll go and actually see what's underneath the balloon on the ground. So there's a bunch of interesting things that you can look at using this website. Okay, let's go back. All right, this is another way of looking at the balloon. It's another website, and it provides a little bit more perspective. This typically comes up with all of the spots. So here's the spotter information. You can see all the different countries where the balloon was heard from. Again, we have the Iceland and the places in Europe. We can scroll out and see more. But you can see a lot more detail about the path of the balloon using this website. So we're going to go here and we're going to hide the spots so we can concentrate on the path. And each one of these flags is a transmission from the balloon. So balloon woke up in the morning just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a state of Canada, just like the United States has states, Canada has states. There's Quebec and Ontario, Nova Scotia, and there's a city here called Halifax, and it started out just off the coast of Halifax, Nova Scotia. The night before, it was launched from a place near Chicago, Illinois, and overnight it traveled this far. So during the day, it travels along. We see many of the transmissions. There's actually a transmission every 10 minutes. We don't get every transmission, but we do. We get enough to know exactly where the balloon is. Okay, so another interesting thing you can do with this site is if you go over here and click the 12-kilometer winds, you'll see the wind speed at the height of the balloon. So we're talking about around 160, 170 miles per hour for the wind. And I'm going to scroll out so we get a better context of where we're at and where the wind is going to take us. Scroll out a little bit more. Okay, so we're right about here, and the wind is going to take us either up here across England, or maybe up here across Sweden and down across some other countries. And this is a way that we can use to predict where our balloon is going to go. Now there's another way that we can predict where it's going to go, and I'll be showing that in another slide. Okay, so if we go back to the previous website, Another thing you can do with this website is if you scroll down, you see information from each of the transmissions. So in this column over on the right hand side, you see the approximate height of the balloon, so 12,000 meters. Okay, and you also see the angle of the sun. So we didn't receive anything from when the sun was below 17 degrees. So that's you can do a lot with this website. You can play around with it and you see a bunch of different things. So let's go back and look at another website. Okay, this is another website you can go to find out information about the balloon. This line here represents the day-night line. So you can see at the time I went to this website, the balloon has been in darkness for quite a while. So the balloon is actually probably up in this area and heading towards Europe. You can do some very interesting things with this website. You can turn off all these spots, the places where people received it, and you can concentrate on the actual path of the balloon, and you can scroll in and see a little bit better. So the balloon started out the morning off the coast of Nova Scotia. There's a city here called Halifax. Nova Scotia is a state in Canada, just like there's states in the United States. Canada has states. Quebec is a state. Ontario is a state, all in Canada. The balloon started out the previous night just before sunset, around 5 o'clock near Chicago, just north of Chicago. So it traveled this distance overnight and woke up here. So then it traveled along this path during the daytime, and then here it went to sleep at sunset right here. So you can do some other interesting things with this website. If you click over here, you can look at the winds that are pushing the balloon. So the speed at the location of the balloon is around 160 miles an hour. And I'm going to scroll out so we can get a little bit better context of where we're looking here. So the balloon is here off the coast of Newfoundland, and the wind is going to take it up north, and it might go far enough north that we won't hear from it. It might go into the darkness up here, but then it's going to come back down and we'll hear from it again. It'll come back down either over England or maybe up here and come down over Sweden. So we can use this wind to predict where the balloon is going to be at any time. These winds change every day. They don't change a lot, but you will see over a week they change quite a bit. So we'll be using this to try to understand where the balloon is going to go. Okay, let's go back and look at the next slide. So this is another way of looking at the balloon path. This is another website, and you can see again the different ham radio stations that recorded a transmission. But this website gives you a lot more information. This line right here is the daylight line. You can see right now when I went to this website, it's many hours past sunset for the balloon. So the balloon has been in darkness for quite a while. But if you can do other things with this website. So if you go up here, you can hide the spots. So if you hide the spots, you can concentrate on the balloon path. So the balloon woke up here just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a state in Canada. Canada has states just like the United States. And Quebec is another state, Ontario is another state. There's a city called Halifax, Nova Scotia, and it just was off the coast of Halifax, Nova Scotia. The balloon started out the night before. We launched it from a place just north of Chicago, and it was near sunset, about 5 o'clock. So it flew from here, from Chicago, all the way to Nova Scotia during the night, and then woke up just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Then during the day, it flew into the Atlantic and went off the coast of Newfoundland, and is currently uh, in the middle Atlantic, probably farther than the balloon you can see by several hours. It's probably on the way to England and someplace in Europe. We may find it tomorrow in Europe someplace. Okay, there's various things you can do with this website. Uh, if you move over here, you can interestingly look at the wind speed at the level of the balloon. So you can look at the winds that are actually pushing the balloon. So wind speed is around 160 miles per hour. I'm going to scroll out so that we can get a little bit better context of where we're at. Okay. All right, so this is the jet stream as of today, and it changes day by day. It doesn't change a lot, but over a week it changes quite a bit. And the wind is pushing our balloon this direction. It's going to come up and curl back down over Europe someplace. And when it goes up north like this, we might lose it. We might not be able to hear from it, but then when it comes back down, we'll hear from it again. So when it's up north, it might be in the night, the Arctic night, and then it might come back down and we'll be able to hear it. So this can be used to predict where the balloon is going to go. And in a following chart, I'll be able to show you another way to predict where it's going. But for now, let's go back to the previous website. And in scrolling down from the website, below the picture, we get information from each of the individual transactions, individual transmissions. So over here on the right, you can see that the height is approximately 12,000 meters, and the angle of the sun is 17.5 degrees. So we did not receive any transmissions after the sun went down below 17 degrees. If you scroll down more, you can see the different angle of the sun goes up to 32 degrees, then goes back down to sunset, and we started transmissions when it was at 8 degrees, which is very low, and we woke up just off the coast of Nova Scotia. Okay, let's go back and look at another chart. Okay, so where is the balloon going? Well, we have a nice website that we can go to. It's provided by NOAA. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and they are responsible for all of the weather satellites, weather balloons, weather prediction. They have large computer programs to predict weather for the next week or week and a half. And we can go to one of their websites and actually put in our information about our balloon, the altitude, and the date that it was launched or the location, and it will predict out for the next 72 hours where the balloon will go. So the balloon was launched on Sunday afternoon from a place near Chicago, Illinois, and you can see the predicted path is this way, and here's Nova Scotia right up here, and it's pretty close to being an accurate prediction. So according to this prediction, we should go across England sometime tomorrow, and maybe go through these countries right here, and maybe you can look at a map and figure out what these countries actually are. Okay, this is my last slide, and this is the link that you use to find out where the balloon is each day. Click on this and it'll give you the information that I showed you in the previous slides. So I hope you enjoy looking at it, and I'll be sending some of the NOAA predictions to you every so often. So it's been a joy, and hope to see you soon, and we're going to have a great time watching this balloon. Bye.